The massive council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a station built by 100 different species over 1,000 years. Inside, representatives from across the galaxy gathered in a circular room that stretched nearly a mile wide. Each species had their own section, their own atmosphere, their own gravity. The technology required to make such a place work was beyond the understanding of most civilizations. Peter Kane walked across the polished floor toward the human section. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. For 3 years, he had served as Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council. For 3 years, he had smiled and nodded while aliens insulted his species. For 3 years, he had signed treaties that kept humanity small and weak. Today was different. He took his seat and waited. Around him, aliens of every shape and size moved and spoke in languages that human ears could never naturally understand. Translation devices made communication possible, but they couldn't translate contempt. That came through clearly in every interaction. The Vrex delegation sat to his left. They looked like massive insects, with hard shells that gleamed under the lights. Their leader, a creature named Thex, had mandibles that clicked constantly. The sound drove Peter crazy, but he never showed it. To his right were the Kelthari, a species that breathed methane and lived in special enclosed areas. They looked like floating jellyfish, beautiful and delicate. They were neither. The Kelthari controlled the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. Further around the circle were the Zinthar, reptilian beings with scales that changed color with their moods. Right now, most of them showed the purple-gray of boredom. They didn't think much of this meeting. Then there were the Mordathians, six-eyed creatures that walked on 4 legs and had arms that could extend to twice their body length. They were merchants and traders, and they hated humanity with a passion that Peter had never fully understood. The council leader called the session to order. It was a Vel, a species that looked almost human, except for their blue skin and complete lack of hair. The Vel considered themselves the most civilized species in the galaxy. The human petition for primary trade routes, the council leader said, his voice carrying across the vast chamber. We will now vote. Peter had spent 6 months preparing this petition. Humanity wanted access to the main trade routes that connected the wealthy core worlds. Currently, human ships were restricted to secondary routes that took 3 times as long and cost twice as much. It was one of many restrictions placed on Earth after they joined the galactic community. The voting began. Species after species voted no. Peter wasn't surprised. He had known this was coming. What surprised him was how much they seemed to enjoy it. Thex, the Vrex leader, stood up. His massive body cast a shadow over the human section. Humanity lacks the cultural maturity for such privileges, he announced. His translator made his clicking speech sound mechanical and cold. They are too young, too primitive, too aggressive. They must learn their place. Laughter spread through the chamber. Not human laughter, but the sounds different species made when they found something amusing. The Kelthari's breathing vents whistled. The Zinthar hissed. The Mordathians made a sound like breaking glass. Peter sat very still. His hand rested on the armrest of his chair. Under his fingers, hidden from view, was a small button connected to his neural implant. A Kelthari representative spoke next. Perhaps in another century, when humans have learned proper behavior, we can revisit this request. More laughter followed. But it was the Mordathian envoy who went too far. He stood on his 4 legs, his 6 eyes gleaming. I have studied humanity, he said, his voice dripping with contempt. They are little more than animals who learn to use tools. They breed like insects, consume resources without thought, and fight among themselves constantly. Perhaps if they spent less time breeding and more time evolving, they might someday earn a real place at this table. Until then, they should be grateful we allow them to exist in our galaxy. The chamber erupted. This wasn't polite diplomatic laughter anymore. This was open mockery. Species that had never agreed on anything found common ground in their contempt for humanity. Peter pressed the button under his finger. The signal went out instantly, traveling faster than light through the quantum communication network. It reached Earth in less than 30 seconds. The response came back even faster. One word: approved. Peter stood up slowly. The laughter continued around him. None of them paid attention to the human ambassador rising to his feet. Why would they? Humans didn't matter. "Excuse me," Peter said quietly. The laughter continued. "Excuse me," he said again, louder this time. Slowly, the chamber fell silent. Thousands of alien eyes turned toward the human section. Peter smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of a man who had been waiting 3 years for this moment. "On behalf of the United Earth Government and all her colonies throughout this galaxy," Peter said clearly, his voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber, "I hereby invoke Article 7 of the Galactic Compact." The council leader leaned forward. "Article 7. That article deals with voluntary withdrawal from all treaties, agreements, and obligations," Peter finished. "Yes, humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. We revoke our acceptance of all trade agreements, territorial restrictions, military limitations, and technology sharing arrangements. Every treaty we signed is now void." Complete silence filled the chamber. Thex's mandibles stopped clicking. The Kalthari's vents went quiet. Even the Mordathian envoy seemed frozen in place. "You cannot," the council leader said. "You will be isolated, cut off. No species will trade with you. You will have no protection from hostile forces. We will be free," Peter interrupted. "Free to build what we want. Free to go where we want. Free to defend ourselves as we see fit. You wanted to remind us of our place in this galaxy. Consider us reminded. We have no place here. So we're leaving." He gathered his papers and turned to leave. "This is madness," someone shouted. "Humanity cannot survive alone." Peter paused at the door. "You're right," he said. "We can't survive alone. Good thing we won't be alone." He looked back at the council. "You should ask yourselves something. In 3 years, how many species did humanity meet with? How many worlds did our diplomats visit? How many civilizations did we trade with outside official council channels?" He could see understanding beginning to dawn on some faces. "You thought we were just accepting our place as the weakest species," Peter continued. "You thought we were learning to bow and scrape. What we were actually doing was learning how this galaxy really works, learning who our friends could be, learning which species are tired of council control, and learning how to build weapons you can't detect, ships you can't track, and a network of allies you don't know exists. Thank you for the education. Send our regards to the council." Peter Kane walked out of the chamber. Behind him, chaos erupted as the council members began shouting at each other, demanding explanations, calling for votes. None of it mattered anymore. Humanity was done playing by their rules. Lisa Hayes sat in the command center deep beneath the surface of the moon. Banks of computers and holographic displays surrounded her, showing information from every human settlement in the galaxy. She had been waiting for this moment for 3 years, just like Peter Kane. Just like every human who knew the truth about what Earth had been preparing. The message came through at exactly the time she expected. 2 words appeared on her main display. Protocol Midnight. "Confirm receipt of activation code," she said calmly. Around her, dozens of officers began working at their stations. There was no panic, no rushing. They had practiced this 1,000 times. Lieutenant Danny Brooks looked up from his console. "All human facilities have confirmed receipt. Mars Command is ready. Europa Station is ready. The colony ships are ready. Everyone is ready." "Begin withdrawal," Lisa ordered. Across human space, things began to happen very quickly. On Mars, Commander Helen Price stood in the joint research facility that humans shared with the Zinthar. 36 alien scientists worked on various projects, using equipment and resources that Earth had provided. They looked up in surprise as human soldiers entered the laboratory. "This facility is now closed," Helen announced. "You have 30 minutes to gather your personal belongings and leave. Everything else stays here." A Zinthar scientist stepped forward, his scales flashing red with anger. "You cannot do this. We have agreements, treaties." "Had agreements," Helen corrected. "Past tense. The treaties are void. This is human territory, built with human resources. Your guests, who have overstayed their welcome. The council can file a complaint," Helen interrupted. "Now, please leave, before we're forced to remove you." The aliens left, complaining and threatening the entire way. Helen didn't care. She had been forced to smile at these arrogant creatures for 2 years while they used human discoveries and claimed credit for the breakthroughs. Not anymore. At Europa Station orbiting Jupiter, Captain Greg Turner was having a similar conversation with Kelthari researchers. They were even more shocked than the Zinthar. "This is illegal," one of them whistled through their translator. "We helped build this station." "You provided 15% of the materials," Greg corrected, reading from a datapad. "Humanity provided the rest. You contributed some research. Humanity provided the breakthrough discoveries that made the research possible. You have been taking data from our computers and sending it back to your homeworld without permission. We have records of every transmission." The Kelthari scientists' vents fluttered with what might have been embarrassment. 30 minutes, Greg repeated. "Then you're off this station." Back on the moon, Lisa watched the reports coming in. Every mixed facility was being cleared. Every joint venture was being dissolved. Anywhere humans and aliens worked together, the aliens were being politely but firmly removed. "Status on the gate network?" she asked. Danny pulled up a new display. The holographic image showed the network of quantum gates that allowed instant travel between star systems. Humanity had built most of them over the past 3 years. The Council had been happy to let humans do the dangerous construction work while they took credit for the technology. "We've changed all access codes," Danny reported. "The gates that humanity built will now only respond to human ships. Council vessels are locked out." That was going to hurt them badly. Earth's engineers had revolutionized gate technology. The old Council gates required massive amounts of energy and could only connect to nearby systems. Human gates used a fraction of the energy and could link across hundreds of light years. The Council had access to human gates throughout their territory. Not anymore. "They're going to be furious," Helen commented. She had returned to the command center after securing the Mars facility. "Let them be furious," Lisa said. "They wanted to keep us weak. They wanted us dependent on them. They should have paid attention to what we were actually doing." Captain Susan Miller appeared on the main screen. She was the commander of Titan Base, humanity's facility on Saturn's largest moon. "All systems ready," she reported. "The Council inspectors are going to be very surprised when they see what we've really been building here." The Council inspectors had visited Titan Base 6 times over the past 3 years. Each time, they had seen exactly what humanity wanted them to see. Mining equipment, research laboratories, living quarters for the workers. Standard colony development. They had never seen the weapons factories hidden beneath the surface. They had never detected the ship construction facilities buried under miles of ice. They had never realized that every mining robot could be quickly converted into a military drone. "Defensive platforms?" Lisa asked. "All active," Susan confirmed. "Every human settlement now has military-grade defenses." The Council thought we were building scientific observation equipment. Funny how a telescope looks a lot like a targeting system when you change the software. More reports came in. From the asteroid belt, from the outer colonies, from the deep space stations that humanity had scattered throughout the local sector. Every installation was reporting ready status. What about the fleet? Lisa asked quietly. Danny brought up a new display. The image showed the Kuiper Belt, the ring of ice and rock beyond Neptune's orbit. The council barely paid attention to that region. Nothing valuable out there, they had said. No reason for humanity to waste resources on it. They were wrong. All ships are ready for deployment, Danny reported. The council thinks we have maybe 50 military vessels, outdated designs, limited weapons, nothing that could threaten a real fleet. How many do we actually have? Helen asked. Danny grinned. 347 capital ships, another 600 smaller vessels, all built in secret over the past 2 years, all using technology the council doesn't know we possess. The room went quiet for a moment. Even though everyone here knew the plan, the reality of it was still stunning. Humanity had built a fleet larger than some council species possessed. They had done it in secret, right under the noses of alien inspectors. They're going to call it an act of war, Helen said. It's not war, Lisa corrected. It's insurance. The council wanted us helpless. We're simply choosing not to be. Another message came through. This one was from Admiral Jack Ryan, commander of humanity's new fleet. All vessels are ready to leave the construction facilities, waiting for your order. Lisa took a deep breath. This was the moment. Once the fleet revealed itself, there was no going back. The council would know that humanity had been deceiving them. They would know that Earth was not the weak, primitive species they believed. The question was, what would they do about it? Admiral Ryan, Lisa said, deploy the fleet. Let's show the galaxy what humanity has been building. One by one, massive warships emerged from hidden facilities in the Kuiper Belt. They had been constructed in secret, using materials mined from asteroids and ice. The council inspectors had seen the mining operations and thought nothing of them. Why would they? Humans were just gathering resources for their small colonies. They never imagined those resources were being used to build warships. The ships were beautiful in their own way. They didn't follow council design principles. Human engineers had looked at alien ships and asked why they were built that way. When the answers didn't make sense, humans tried something different. The result was vessels that looked strange to alien eyes. They were sleeker, faster, more efficient. They carried weapons based on principles the council had never considered. They used stealth technology that made them nearly invisible to standard sensors. Each ship represented years of secret work. Thousands of humans had kept this secret, knowing that if the council discovered it too early, everything would be lost. But the secret was out now. Fleet is fully deployed, Danny reported. Council sensors are picking them up. We're getting frantic transmissions from their border stations. Lisa could imagine the panic. Council officers seeing hundreds of human warships appear where they thought there was nothing but empty space. Send a message to all council facilities, Lisa ordered. Tell them that humanity has withdrawn from all treaties. Tell them that any attempt to interfere with human operations will be considered an act of aggression. Tell them that Earth is no longer asking permission to exist. The message went out across dozens of star systems. In council chambers and military headquarters, aliens received the news with shock and disbelief. Humanity, the species they had mocked that very morning, was suddenly the most dangerous unknown in the galaxy. And in command centers across human space, men and women who had spent 3 years pretending to be weak finally let themselves smile. The emergency council session began exactly 8 hours after Peter Kane walked out of the chamber. Every species sent their highest-ranking representatives. The mood was very different from the previous meeting. The Kelthari ambassador was the first to speak. Her voice came through the translator with an edge of panic that surprised everyone. Humanity has seized the Antares trade hub. They claim it belongs to Earth because human workers built it. They've ejected all non-human personnel and locked us out of the facility. The Antares trade hub was a massive space station at a critical junction between 3 major trade routes. It processed millions of tons of cargo every day. Losing access to it would cost the Kelthari billions. A Zinthar representative stood up, his scales flashing colors that indicated severe distress. The humans have taken control of 70% of the quantum gate network. Our ships can't use the fast routes anymore. We're being forced back onto the old gates that take weeks instead of hours. More reports came in. Human colonies had closed their borders to alien ships. Research facilities were refusing to share data. Trade agreements were cancelled. Everywhere humans and aliens had worked together, the cooperation had ended. The Vrex delegation leader, Thex, slammed one of his many limbs on his desk. This is an act of war. They cannot be allowed to behave this way. Actually, Peter Kane said from his seat, we can. Article 7 of the Galactic Compact allows any species to withdraw from the Council. You wrote that article yourselves. We're just using it. He was still there, but now as an observer rather than a member. The Council had demanded he stay to answer questions. Peter had agreed, mostly because he wanted to see their reactions. The Council leader, the Vel with blue skin, looked exhausted. Ambassador Kane, surely we can negotiate. This withdrawal is harmful to everyone. Is it? Peter asked. It seems mainly harmful to you. Humanity is doing fine. You cannot survive without Council protection, the Mordathian envoy insisted. He was trying to sound confident, but Peter could hear the worry in his voice. The Outer Rim species will attack you. Pirates will raid your colonies. You need the Council's security forces. Peter laughed. Do we? Let me tell you what we've learned in 3 years. The Council's security forces spend most of their time protecting Council interests, not defending weaker species. The pirates you mention, they mainly attack species that can't defend themselves. You kept humanity weak, which made us targets. Now that we're not weak anymore, the pirates are going to look elsewhere. He pulled up a holographic display showing recent activity on the Outer Rim. As for the Outer Rim species attacking us, we've already talked to them. Turns out, they don't much like the Council either. Especially when we offered them access to our gate network at fair prices, instead of the ridiculous fees you charge. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Species shouted at each other in dozens of languages. The translation system struggled to keep up. Order, the Council leader demanded. We must maintain order. When the chamber finally quieted down, the Kalthari ambassador spoke again. What do you want? There must be something humanity wants from this Council. We wanted respect, Peter said simply. We wanted to be treated as equals. Instead, you mocked us. You restricted our growth. You took credit for our discoveries. You treated us like children who needed to be controlled. He shook his head. We don't want anything from you anymore. We're done. A human aide entered the chamber and handed Peter a data tablet. He read it, then smiled. Oh, this is interesting. You remember those mining stations we built in the Kuiper Belt? The ones your inspectors visited and approved? The ones you barely looked at because they seemed so primitive? The Council members waited, all armed with weapons the Council had never seen before. You've been preparing for war, Thex accused. No, Peter corrected. We've been preparing to defend ourselves. There's a difference. You wanted us helpless. We chose not to be. The Mordathian envoy stood on his 4 legs, all 6 eyes fixed on Peter. This is madness. You're one species. We are hundreds. You cannot stand against the entire Council. You're right, Peter admitted. We're one species, but you're not hundreds anymore. Let me show you something else. Another display activated. This one showed a list of species names. 23 of them. These are the species that have signed mutual defense treaties with humanity in the past 8 hours, Peter explained. Most of them are from the Outer Rim. Some are Council members who are tired of being treated as lesser species. All of them have agreed to work with Earth instead of against us. The list included some surprising names. Species that had been part of the Council for centuries. Species that controlled important resources and strategic locations. You've been building an alliance, the council leader said slowly. All this time, you weren't just accepting our restrictions. You were recruiting. We were making friends, Peter said. Real friends, based on mutual respect and fair dealing. Novel concept, I know. The chamber fell silent again. The council members were beginning to understand what had happened. Humanity hadn't been defeated by their restrictions. They had been motivated by them. Every insult had driven them to work harder. Every limitation had forced them to be more creative. The council had thought they were controlling a primitive species. Instead, they had created a rival. What happens now? The Kelthari ambassador asked quietly. Peter stood up. Now we rebuild the galactic order. But this time, we do it right. No more species claiming superiority over others. No more restricting development because you're afraid of competition. No more mocking younger civilizations because they don't know your customs yet. He walked toward the center of the chamber. Humanity is willing to negotiate. We're willing to trade. We're willing to cooperate on research and defense. But we will do it as equals, or we won't do it at all. And if we refuse? The Vrex leader asked. Then you refuse, Peter said with a shrug. We'll build our own network with our allies. We'll create our own trade routes. We'll establish our own councils and research partnerships. You can either join us, or you can watch from the sidelines, while the galaxy moves forward without you. You had a chance to lead. You chose to bully instead. You had a chance to cooperate. You chose to mock instead. Every choice you made pushed humanity toward this moment. You created this situation. We're just responding to it. The council leader looked old and tired. You're asking us to give up our position, our authority, our control. I'm asking you to give up your arrogance, Peter corrected. Your position was based on being first, not on being best. Your authority was based on fear, not on respect. Your control was an illusion that only worked as long as everyone believed in it. We stopped believing. Others are stopping too. He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, one more thing. We know about the Omega Sector. Every alien in the chamber went absolutely still. Peter smiled. Yes, we know. We know what you found out there. We know what you've been hiding. We know why you're really afraid of species becoming too powerful. He looked at the council leader. And we're going to investigate it ourselves, with our allies, without your interference. He walked out of the chamber for the second time. Behind him, the council erupted into chaos once again. But this time, it wasn't chaos directed at humanity. It was panic among themselves, as they realized their deepest secret was no longer secret. Admiral Jack Ryan stood on the bridge of the ECS Defiance, humanity's first true battlecruiser. The ship was massive, nearly 2 miles long, with weapon systems that would have shocked the council if they knew what human engineers had developed. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. The council's response had been predictable. Economic sanctions, trade blockades, and now a military fleet sent to teach humanity a lesson. Contact from Council Fleet, reported Kate Morgan from the navigation station. She was young, barely 30, but she had proven herself during training exercises. They're demanding we stand down and accept inspection of all human military facilities. Jack smiled without humor. Tell them we decline their kind offer. The Council fleet hung in space about 1 million miles away. 67 capital ships, including 5 Vrex battlecruisers. Those battlecruisers were the pride of the Vrex military. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The Council believed their fleet was unstoppable. They had fought wars across the galaxy for thousands of years. They had refined their tactics and perfected their strategies. They knew every possible way to conduct space combat. That was their weakness. Tactical analysis, Jack ordered. Lieutenant Commander Chris Allen brought up a holographic display showing the Council fleet's formation. They're using standard defensive pattern 7. Heavy ships in the center, lighter vessels on the flanks. Their shields are calibrated for energy weapons, particle beams, and plasma cannons. Exactly what we expected, Jack said. Are our ships in position? Yes, sir, Chris confirmed. The trap is set. The Council fleet began to advance. They moved slowly, confidently. They had no reason to fear a battle with humanity. Earth's ships were new, untested. The Council had centuries of combat experience. On the bridge of the Vrex flagship, Commander Drex watched the human ships with contempt. 5 vessels against 67. The humans were outnumbered more than 10 to 1. This would be a quick battle. Prepare primary weapons, he ordered. Target the largest human vessel. We'll destroy it first, then the others will surrender. His weapons officer activated the targeting systems. Energy began building in the ship's main cannons. That's when everything went wrong. The space around the Council fleet suddenly lit up with explosions. Hundreds of them. The ships rocked from the impacts. Report, Drex demanded. Mines, his sensor officer shouted. The area is filled with mines, but our sensors showed nothing. The mines were a human innovation. They didn't use heat or radiation. They were cold and silent until activated. Standard sensors couldn't detect them. But the mines were just the beginning. Human ships are firing, the weapons officer reported. Drex watched in confusion as projectiles shot toward his fleet. Not energy beams, not plasma. Solid projectiles moving at incredible speeds. Evasive action, he ordered. Too late. The projectiles slammed into Council ships. The shields, designed to stop energy weapons, did almost nothing against solid matter traveling at a significant fraction of light speed. 3 ships exploded immediately. 5 more reported critical damage. Return fire, Drex commanded. The Council fleet unleashed their weapons. Particle beams and plasma cannons lit up the space between the fleets. It was an impressive display of firepower. None of it hit anything. Impossible! Drex stared at his sensors. The human ships are still there. Why aren't we hitting them? They're using some kind of jamming technology, the sensor officer reported. Our targeting systems can't lock on. Every shot is missing. On the Defiance, Jack watched the Council fleet waste ammunition. Cyber warfare team status? We're in their systems, reported Amy White from the communications station. Their targeting computers are ours. Every calculation we feed them is wrong. They couldn't hit us if we were standing still. Beautiful, Jack said. Time to show them what else we've developed. All ships, execute Delta Protocol. The human vessels, which had been flying in a standard formation, suddenly split apart. They moved in ways that Council ships couldn't match. Human engineers had designed vessels that could change direction almost instantly. In a space battle, maneuverability was life. The Defiance dove toward the Council fleet and launched another wave of kinetic projectiles. These were different from the first wave. These were designed to punch through armor after the shields were down. They worked perfectly. 2 more Council ships exploded. 3 others went dark, their power systems destroyed. Launch missiles, Jack ordered. The missiles streaking from human ships didn't show up on thermal sensors because they were cold-launched. They didn't emit radiation because they used a propulsion system the Council had never seen. They accelerated to attack speed only in the final seconds before impact. The Council fleet tried to defend. Point defense systems fired blindly, hoping to hit something. A few missiles were destroyed. Most got through. Commander Drex watched his fleet fall apart. In less than 10 minutes, he had lost 20 ships. 20 against 5 human vessels. All ships retreat, he ordered. Fall back to Rally Point Beta. But retreating was harder than it should have been. The mines were everywhere, forcing his ships to move slowly and carefully. Human vessels pursued, picking off stragglers with ruthless efficiency. Jack didn't gloat. He just watched his crew work. They had trained for this. They had prepared for every possibility. The Council might have experience, but humanity had innovation. "Council flagship is hailing," Kate reported. "Put them through," Jack said. Drex appeared on the main screen. His mandibles were quivering. "This is a violation of galactic law. You're using illegal weapons." "Illegal according to whom?" Jack asked. "We're not part of the Council anymore. We don't follow your laws. You came to our territory with a military fleet. You threatened our worlds. We're just defending ourselves." "We came to restore order." "You came to force us to obey," Jack corrected. "There's a difference. You wanted to remind us that you're stronger. How's that working out?" Around his flagship, human ships circled like sharks. "Stand down," Jack ordered. "Leave this system. Don't come back. If you do, we won't be as gentle next time." "Gentle?" Drex looked at the list of his destroyed ships. "You call this gentle?" "You're still alive," Jack pointed out. "We could have destroyed every ship in your fleet. We chose not to. Take the lesson and go home." The Council fleet retreated. Ships limped away, damaged and defeated. They had come to teach humanity a lesson. Instead, they had learned one. Back on the Defiance, Jack's crew celebrated. But Jack himself remained calm. This was just one battle. The war, if it came to that, would be much longer. "Damage report," he ordered. "Minor hits on the Armstrong and the Collins," Chris reported. "Nothing serious. We're at 97% combat effectiveness." One battle, 97% effectiveness. Against a fleet that outnumbered them more than 10-1. Kate looked up from her station. "Admiral, we're getting messages from the Outer Rim. 7 more species want to meet with our diplomats. They all saw the battle. They want to know more about Earth's defensive capabilities." "Forward those requests to Diplomatic Corps," Jack said. "Let them handle it." Amy was monitoring Council communications. "Sir, you should hear this. The Council is having an emergency session. They're arguing about what to do next." Jack listened to the intercepted transmissions. Council members were panicking. Some wanted to send a larger fleet. Others wanted to negotiate. A few were suggesting that maybe the Council should just leave humanity alone. "They're scared," Chris observed. "Good," Jack said. "Fear will make them careful. Careful enemies think before they attack." He looked at the star chart showing Council territory and human space. The boundaries were blurred now. Human allies controlled key systems throughout the region. The old order was collapsing. "Send a message to Earth Command," Jack ordered. "The Council fleet has been repelled. Recommend we maintain high alert status, but do not pursue. Let them run. Let them tell their leaders what happened here." The message went out. Across human space, commanders received the news. Humanity had won its first major battle. Not through superior numbers or older technology, but through innovation and tactics the enemy never expected. On dozens of worlds, both human and alien, people watched recordings of the battle. They saw Council ships, supposedly invincible, destroyed by a smaller human force. They saw the mighty Vrex battlecruisers retreat in disorder. The message was clear. Humanity could defend itself. And more importantly, humanity wouldn't back down. 6 months had passed since the Council fleet retreated in defeat. 6 months since humanity had proven it could defend itself. 6 months of negotiations, treaties, and the slow rebuilding of galactic politics. Peter Kane walked through the new Council chamber. It was different from the old one. Smaller, more modest. The seats were arranged in a circle, with no species elevated above others. Every representative had the same size space, the same quality equipment, the same voice in decisions. It had taken months of arguing to get the old Council to agree to these changes. In the end, they had no choice. 23 species had sided with humanity. More joined every week. The old power structure was broken. Peter took his seat among the other representatives. To his left sat the ambassador from Kelthara. To his right, an envoy from one of the Outer Rim worlds. Across the circle, he could see Thex, the Vrex who had mocked humanity 6 months ago. The insect-like alien looked much less confident now. The new council leader called the session to order. She was a Tarvan, a species that had always been neutral in galactic politics. The choice of a Tarvan as leader was deliberate. No more would the powerful species control everything. "We begin the ratification of the new Galactic Compact," the leader announced. "All species present have reviewed the terms. Are there any final objections?" Silence filled the chamber. Every species here had already argued their positions during the months of negotiations. Today was just making it official. "The terms are simple," the leader continued. "Equal representation for all species, regardless of size or age. Free trade along all established routes. No restrictions on development or research unless such development poses a direct threat to galactic peace. Mutual defense agreements are voluntary, not mandatory. All species maintain sovereignty over their own territories. No species may claim superiority over another. Disputes will be resolved through negotiation and arbitration, not force." Peter listened to the words he had helped write. These were the principles humanity had fought for. These were the changes that had cost lives and resources to achieve. "Let us vote," the leader said. One by one, species voted to accept the new compact. Even the Vrex voted yes, though Thex looked like he was chewing glass as he did so. The Mordathians voted yes. The Zinthar voted yes. The Kelthari voted yes. Every species accepted the new order, because the alternative was being left behind while the galaxy moved forward without them. After the vote, the chamber broke into smaller discussions. Species that had been enemies for centuries talked about trade agreements. Old alliances were formed on new terms. The galaxy was reorganizing itself. Peter stood and walked to the observation deck. Through the massive windows, he could see ships from dozens of species docked at the station. Human vessels moved among them freely now, no longer restricted to secondary docking ports. Admiral Lisa Hayes joined him at the window. She had come from Earth for the ratification ceremony. "Hard to believe it's only been 6 months," she said. "Feels like years," Peter agreed. "The council still doesn't like us," Lisa observed. "They voted yes because they had to, not because they wanted to." "I know," Peter said, "but their opinion doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that we proved they were wrong about us, wrong about what humanity could achieve, wrong about our place in the galaxy." Lisa looked at the ships outside. "Some of them will still cause problems. The Vrex are already trying to rebuild their military. The Mordathians are looking for ways around the trade agreements," Lisa said. "Let them try," Peter said. "We'll be watching. And we have allies now. Real allies who trust us because we've earned that trust." A message appeared on Peter's communicator. He read it and smiled. "What is it?" Lisa asked. "Admiral Jack Ryan. His fleet just made contact with another species from the Outer Rim. They want to join the Alliance. That makes 32 species now." Lisa whistled softly. 32 species in 6 months. The old council took centuries to build that kind of influence. "The old council demanded obedience," Peter corrected. "We offer partnership. People respond better to that." They watched in silence for a moment. Then Lisa spoke again. "What about the Omega Sector? Did you mean what you said about investigating it?" Peter's expression became serious. "Yes, the Council has been hiding something out there. Something they're terrified of. Something they didn't want any species to know about. Do we know what it is yet? Not exactly. But we've pieced together some information from species that used to be part of the Council's inner circle. There's a region of space beyond the Outer Rim. The Council found something there thousands of years ago. Something powerful. Something dangerous. And they've been keeping it secret," Lisa said. "They've been keeping it contained," Peter corrected. "Or trying to. That's why they were so desperate to control powerful species. They were afraid someone would find it and either release it or weaponize it. Lisa frowned. So they kept everyone weak and divided. Classic strategy. It might have even been the right strategy, Peter admitted, but they should have trusted other species with the truth. Instead, they hoarded the knowledge and the power. Now we're going to investigate ourselves. The Council won't like that. They don't have to like it. They don't control us anymore. Another figure joined them on the observation deck. It was Admiral Jack Ryan himself, arrived from his flagship to attend the final ceremonies. Ambassador, Admiral Hayes, he greeted them. Congratulations on the ratification. Congratulations to all of us, Peter replied. None of this would have worked without the fleet proving we could defend ourselves. Jack looked out at the gathered ships. We got lucky in that first battle. The Council fleet was overconfident. They won't make that mistake again. Will there be more battles? Lisa asked. Maybe, Jack said honestly. Some Council species still think they can force us back into submission. But most of them are smart enough to see which way the wind is blowing. The galaxy is changing. They can either change with it, or become irrelevant. His communicator chimed. He checked the message, and his expression changed. We have a problem, Peter said. What kind of problem? Peter asked. Long-range sensors picked up something entering the Omega sector. Something big, moving fast, origin unknown. The three of them looked at each other. This was what the Council had feared. Something from that forbidden region, heading toward inhabited space. Do we know what it is? Lisa asked. Not yet. But whatever it is, it's bigger than anything in our databases. Council databases, too. Peter made a decision. Get back to your ship, Admiral. Take the fleet to investigate. But don't engage unless you have to. We need information first. Jack nodded and left quickly. Peter and Lisa remained at the window. This could be bad, Lisa said quietly. Or it could be an opportunity, Peter replied. The Council kept secrets because they were afraid. We're going to face whatever is out there with open eyes. Maybe we'll find a threat. Maybe we'll find something else. Either way, we'll deal with it honestly. Below them, in the Council chamber, species were still celebrating the new compact. They didn't know yet about the contact in the Omega sector. They didn't know that their careful new peace might be tested sooner than anyone expected. But they would know soon. Peter watched Jack Ryan's ship undock and head toward the jump point. Behind it, dozens of other human vessels followed. The fleet was moving out, heading toward the unknown. That was humanity's real strength, Peter thought. Not their weapons or their technology. Not even their ability to make allies. It was their willingness to face the unknown instead of hiding from it. The Council had spent thousands of years trying to contain threats, control populations, and maintain order through fear. Humanity was going to try something different. They were going to face challenges head-on, build alliances based on trust, and explore instead of restrict. Maybe it would work, maybe it would fail, but at least they would try. Peter's communicator buzzed again. This time it was a message from Earth. His replacement as ambassador would arrive next week. Peter had been called home. The government wanted him to lead the new exploration initiative into the Omega sector. He smiled. From ambassador to explorer. It seemed fitting. What are you thinking? Lisa asked. I'm thinking that 6 months ago, the Council mocked us. They told us we were too primitive, too young, too aggressive. They told us we needed to learn our place. And now? Now we're teaching them that there are no fixed places in this galaxy. Everyone can rise. Everyone can grow. Everyone deserves a chance to prove what they're capable of. Peter looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, in the Omega sector, something ancient and unknown was moving. It might be a threat. It might be an opportunity. It might be something no one had ever imagined. Whatever it was, humanity would face it, not alone, but with allies they had earned through respect and fair dealing. Not as the weakest species begging for protection, but as equals standing alongside others. The Council had wanted to teach humanity a lesson. They had succeeded. just not the lesson they intended. They taught humanity that the galaxy belonged to those brave enough to claim it, that strength came from innovation and alliances, not age and arrogance, that the future wasn't owned by those who had always held power, but by those willing to fight for change. Humanity had learned those lessons well, and now the rest of the galaxy would learn what happened when you pushed humans too far, mocked them too much, and underestimated them completely. You created something new, something dangerous, something that refused to accept the old rules. You created equals who demanded respect. And once you created that, you could never put it back in the box. The galaxy had changed. The old order was dead. The new order was still being written. And humanity had just started the first chapter.